today at our series of 5 questions, I welcome a very good friend from England. Welcome Ian Jindal, the owner and chief of internet retailing. Is that correct?
That's totally correct, and it's great to join you. Last time we were meeting face to face. Sadly, it's now digitally mediated.
But at least I have the chance to meet you. Also, it is only in the virtual space. But nevertheless, yes. I think a lot of people over here are also very interested about how the current life and economy in the UK is going on. So maybe as a first question, Ian, how are you? Not only business-wise, also how is the whole situation?
Well, personally fine. You know, we've all been a bit ill, but the family's fine. And also our business has been for years a very flexible one. So when people say work at home, instead of working at home 4 days a week, we now work at home, 5 days, 6 days, however, who knows what a day is anymore. So as a business, that's been fine. But I think the impact on the economy is really, split into 3 groups of people. You've got the affluent people who've got nice houses, some savings, this for them is an inconvenience, but it's not the end of the world. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the frontline staff who just don't have a chance to even think. They're working all day, whether it's a road sweeper, a bus driver, driving a train, nurses, doctors, cleaners, the people who really sustain a service economy by doing the real work. And for them, it's very, very tough. And then you've got the third category of people who are what I would call normal employees, who are staring at the economic collapse. They don't have the savings. They may be in shared accommodation. And for them, this is just a horrendous experience. And so when you put the 3 of them together, I think that there's, a lot of worry. Some people are okay for the moment, but I think the worry is there.
Okay, and if we take it a little bit more, this is what I always appreciate when we meet, and I always remember also the long discussions we had, the whole evenings together with Jochen Krisch as well. Really enjoy these evenings all the time. So if you think a little bit more about retail, Ian, what is happening there? What is the situation in UK, but maybe also what do you predict maybe on a European or even a global basis? What's going on with retail at the moment?
Wow. Well, look, I'm not the person that's currently trading, a major retailer. So, take that as a starting point. Look, I think the first about retail was shock. It was like being in a sci-fi film when one of the Martians lands and shoots you with a freezing ray. So you're halfway through this, it's like, stop. Everything just stops. So it's not like it's gone up, down, different. It's just a total stop. The shops are locked. The warehouses are closed. It's just a stop. So over and above that, the supermarkets then had the challenge of feeding the nation. So I think it's been a case of absolute stop, pause, and then some things have kind of trickled through. So the supermarkets have done an absolutely fantastic job. This for them has been like having double Christmas every day for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. So when people talk about peak planning and resilience, I think, they have to get 5 gold stars because that's worked. But behind that, we then had the food and manufacturers saying, well, we're now trying to keep up with that demand, but we have production or supply chain in China, that's closed. Materials haven't been made. So even though the factory could make things, we don't have the raw materials. So I think that ripple going through retail has really brought the supply chain to the front. Mm-hmm. And I think the other part we've seen is that direct to consumer has had a massive boost. Mm-hmm. So if you're a brand that people like, they're now going to your website and say, well, deliver it to me. And in the UK, remember, our delivery system has really done exceptionally well. So, pick, pack, dispatch, couriers, tracking, next day, home collection, fantastic. So again, if you're sitting at home, there's none of this, oh, we can't get it to you because the post isn't working. It's like, no, it's all working fine. They are a form of frontline workers. But I think the negative side of that then is if you are in apparel, you know, I mean, as far as you know, I don't even have any clothes on below my waist. So, you know, no one is buying clothes. All you're buying are, you know, sloppy sweatshirts, things to hang around the home.
Yeah.
So spring, summer has disappeared. So the clothes retailers have the wrong product at the wrong price in the wrong place for customers who don't care. But what do you buy next? Do I jump straight to autumn? Do I hope there's going to be a summer?
Yeah.
And even if I want to make a bet, I just don't have the cash. So many clothing retailers are suffering, and that affects the supply chain. I even think that the grocers, you know, grocery in the UK was about maybe 5% online, 95% not. Even if that's now jumped to 30%, then it still doesn't make up for the sales you're losing.
Yeah.
So I think the short answer is that everybody's had a massive impact. Some sectors have weathered that impact incredibly well. Some have been totally stopped. Food, travel, of course, fashion has suffered. But the only thing I'm thinking is maybe a silver lining is that brands have gone direct to consumer and done maybe 15 years worth of gradual development in 30 days. And so that has been a positive lift for the medium term, but there aren't really any happy stories coming out of this.
So if I come to my next question about the winners and the losers of these crises, I think you more or less answered a lot of it. At the end of the day, if I got you right, the real winners are not there, but for sure some verticals especially, or some segments of the business would be the more positive things, like direct to consumer, like the supermarkets. How is, by the way, Amazon doing, for example, in the UK? Are they still delivering also in prime standard, or are they also delayed as we experience it here?
Yeah, so they've reduced the number of things that are available for Prime, and they have also extended delivery from next day to 2 days on some things as well. But, you know, I'm at home, so I don't mind if it's tomorrow or the day after. And some things are definitely still same day or next day. So I think it depends on what you're trying to buy and where it is in the supply chain. I think they've suffered a bit with third-party suppliers trying to do some price gouging. So, you know, in-demand items have really gone through the roof. But I think all this does is show human nature on the one hand, and secondly, the fact that although Amazon you know, covers a lot of products, it's still largely a marketplace. So if their retail and brand partners are charging more or don't have availability, there's no clever magic that Amazon can do to just summon up a product if it's not within the retail ecosystem. So I think that's the Amazon part. They're not going to come out of this badly because what it's going to do is crush the middle ground. So if you're a small, plucky independent, or you're a fantastically good, small niche brand, or you're somebody who's come from 1990 and has jumped 30 years to be trading online, you will look at this and think, oh, I moved forward. But if you're a flabby, holding on retailer that's been under pressure year after year, and you're thinking, can I manage the slide? This has been crushing. And I think when you say, you know, have there been winners? This is a bit like saying, you know, did a chicken win when the dinosaurs were exterminated? I don't think there were massive winners from, you know, 100 million years of stability snuffed out overnight. And then, yes, you know, we maybe came out of that in evolutionary terms, but, you know, the winners will write the history. So I think in 10 years' time, we look back at the Amazons, Google, Facebook, Apple, some of the big players like Walmart, Next in the UK, Carrefour, and they'll say, that was really tough, but we are doing fantastically well now because all of our competition was killed, and people now use us as the marketplace route to consumers. So I think they will benefit. I think the carriers will benefit, and I think brands will benefit. And then we'll see that the mid-ranking, undifferentiated retailers will be slowly replaced as the way you go and find what you want to buy.
What do you think, or what would you suggest a retailer, especially right now facing the situation, a lot of demand in the online business, physical stores? Well, in Germany it's opening up again, but no one really knows how that continues. What would be topics or initiatives where you would say that would be something that could be, or should be higher on the priority list right now to really be able to manage all this? And what would be things where you say, oh, not that relevant at the moment? For sure, not for everybody the same recipe, but I think there might be some things that might be suggested.
I think the big shift is to move away from a business based on habit to a business based upon either need or enthusiasm. So, when I look at my kids, they get into a habit of wanting clothes because, oh, a month has gone by, there's a new fashion, I just want something new. Or we go through the habit of buying things because retail is a form of leisure activity. Now that everything's stopped, whole categories of shopping behavior have changed, and we've got off the treadmill. So when you're looking to engage with the consumer again, there has to be a real reason. And it has to be based upon their actual needs. What do they value? It has to be based upon what excites them and makes them feel good and happy. And then the third part then is, how do I connect that demand with my product? And so I think, all of our comparatives have blown up. There's no year-on-year, month-on-month season comparatives. We are kind of starting from scratch. Some of us will be able to flex, or the same thing will carry on. But a lot of people, I don't think you can look and say, well, will it go back to normal? Because there isn't a normal.
Completely agree. And also
sounds depressing, but sorry, I think this is why brands are going to have some advantage. But I would also say that if you are a local store that has been open throughout the pandemic, serving your customers, you've flexed your stock, you've seen the shopping patterns change, you've embraced social distancing, you are working with the community, well, you've done all the hard work, because you now will rise with people start to become more social. It's all those people in the middle that aren't really anything. They were just part of the retail machine when the retail machine has sort of fallen apart a bit.
I just found out yesterday an example of a very specialized running store here in Munich. They do a very good consulting service related to the selling. And I wanted to buy new shoes. They said appointment possibly in 2 weeks. So I think exactly also coming towards what you were just saying, if you're specialized, independent, small enough to really focus also on the service around, you have a chance. If you're in the middle size, forget it. And if you're big enough, you can wait until.
And I think it's worth developing that, because if you know your favorite brand and you know your fit, and once you get a little bit older, let's say over 30, then you go from absolute athleticism to wanting to look after your feet, which are, not as pretty as they once were. So, you need then the expertise about what are appropriate runs, appropriate training, what type of shoes I want. Anyway, if you know what you want, you can order it online. If you know you need expertise, you'll find the expertise. But in the middle, you don't really need a shop that says, I don't know you, I've got some sizes in some brands with some level of return. It's like, oh, I haven't got time for that. I mean, of course, I have lots of time, but I haven't got the mental energy to spend on that, because it's not fun.
I agree.
So I keep coming back. I remember saying in about 2004 doing a presentation where I just put up a big slide of a donut and said that there's no middle in e-commerce. You're either excellent or you're nowhere. You're either the best or you're nowhere. You're the cheapest or you're nowhere, but not everyone can be the cheapest. And it's taken 15 years for that to become true, not because the great people aren't great, but because there's been so much room for mediocre people to move on from year to year to year. Now, one thing I think is important to say is that as we talk about performance, we must never forget that these mediocre companies are actually a very important part of society. So if you think about, Dam Square in Amsterdam, and you look at each of the four corners, you've got the Bijenkorf on one hand, which is a state in the Netherlands. You've got, I think, the Royal Palace on the other side, society, stability. Then you had a big store owned by, Hudson Group. Now that's gone. And then a super luxury watch and jewelry seller. So you have all of life, if you like, at that crossroads from a retail perspective. Look at the changes happening there. Yeah. Anyway, when big retailers disappear, they leave tens of thousands of staff without jobs. And apart from the societal impact, that's 10,000 customers that the other companies don't have. 10,000 families that are not spending on other things. So I really, although I think it's easy for us to say, look, it's great if you're a high performing company, I think what Europe as a whole has shown is that during the lockdown, the desire to preserve life and preserve a way of life has been really important. And so what I'm hoping as we move into the various stages of lockdown is that we will maintain that common view that every retailer needs a customer and every customer needs a job. And that's really the social compact we have that we need to maintain.
The last question of our 5 questions, Ian, is a little bit, I know, not answerable in a good way. It's a little bit like looking into the glass ball, right? But I ask everybody about it. What do you think, based on what we know today? Where will we stand in 6 months from now? What will be the situation we are facing then?
So what day is it today? So that will be November. So I think in November, we might be coming out of the second lockdown.
Wow. So you expect the second lockdown to be definitely coming?
I think it's inevitable because, as we start socializing again over the summer, we will have a spike. It's sort of obvious. I think we'll respond to that differently because companies will say, we're not going to furlough again. We're going to make people redundant. They'll say, if it's happened twice, it'll happen 3 and 4 times. So we really need now to cut back our businesses or liquidate or whatever. So I think the second time round will be more painful. You'll also have some people who are saying we're not going to do it, or some sectors say we don't want to do it. So I think there's going to be a lot of friction, but we'll also have the problem that, the UK might say no, but France will say, that's great, but we shut our border anyway. Or Germany, Austria will say, what's interesting is that the border is good, it's just these cities are a problem. So how do you quarantine a city in an open, post-Schengen democracy? So I think we're going to see a combination of shutdown release get smaller and smaller and smaller, but also a rippling effect where globalization and free movement of people and goods is challenged because one person will be up while one person is in lockdown, et cetera. So what I'm thinking is that we will have ongoing disruption for probably a year and a half from now.
Wow, very interesting, as I expected, Ian. Thank you so much.
I'd like to be more positive. I would like to be more positive, but I think,
better, right?
it's going to move from being a medical problem to being a social economic problem.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no clear way out of that. But I also have a slight concern that as winter returns with normal seasonal flu, et cetera, then we could have more problems as well. So that's my outlook based on the fact that, you know, my crystal ball is as good or bad as anyone else's.
I will ask you in 6 months, and then we can loop a little bit back what we discussed today. Really looking forward to that. Thank you so much for your time, Ian. Hope to see you soon.
Pleasure talking to you as ever, Florian.
Thank you very much. Bye, Ian.
See you later.